opera definitely is an inspiration, mainly as a form, not specifically. It's not that I go to lots of opera. I think I've only been to one, and I think that was Porgy and Bess, so it's not very, not necessarily very indicative. But as an idea, as a sort of an art form that manages to pull together a lot of diverse things as a sort of totalizing thing that is so much about the kind of surge of effect in a way. Opera is obviously a kind of preeminent art form, really, still, but it feels also similar to the reason I make videos is because I want to have music in there and I want to have performance and costumes and all of this sort of stuff. So opera. It's also, opera is a thing that I want people to carry with them as they go through, a bit like old food, that you can't really, you have to drag that idea around with you and think it through. And then Game of Thrones, I mean, it's, I guess the kind of total ubiquity of that thing, its massive success, why that's so successful, what it means for a fantasy like that to be, which is also the bleakest kind of fantasy. Whose fantasy is that, anyway? And how, yeah, I don't know what that means. You know, like that would be a kind of way of reading the culture or something, and why we might need that kind of escapism. But it also, you know, the very fact that it's not a historical drama, that it can have dragons, but also seems to be medievalist or whatever. You know, I don't know. All of those things I wanted to. I was super interested in that relationship between a kind of realism and complete fantasy. You know, that you could have a really realistic fantasy, which is a sort of headfuck. You know, it's like thinking about why would you do that? What's the idea behind going for something that's really realistic? And I've always, you know, using this sort of animation, I've always wanted to have this faint whiff of like realism. Or that's, you know, like in the way that maybe someone does a really realistic drawing of your hand, or something, I don't know. But that realism functions as this very strange relationship to something that is so overtly not true or not real. I don't know. I guess this is a bigger question about representation and stuff, and I'm definitely talking too much right now. But I think Game of Thrones seemed to be a kind of clarion moment in the culture. And I think whether you like it or not, and I do like it, I do watch it, totally. But it felt like a particularly pointed and interesting thing that fantasy, high fantasy, was resurgent in a kind of adult way.